In my last video, I talked about assembling a series of filters to use to view the startup landscape, which led me to a few conclusions about what opportunities I should pursue. And so now let's talk about what I saw through those filters. What I saw through the I don't know how to say that, more, I don't know. I don't know, shit, I know how to read it. What I saw through the pattern of those two filters overlaid by one another is what I think will be the great monetization strategy of web3, matching the previous pattern of web 1 being ads and e-commerce for monetization. Web 2 was subscription monetization through software as a service, and for web 3, which is dominated by AI, tokenization, and crypto, neither of those work anymore. So that demands that we do something new. But what? Well, that's the important part, isn't it? Like, should I just tell you? The climax of a movie is at the climax. And if they tell you how it ends at the beginning, it's usually a lot less fun. The standard bearer for Web 1 ads and e-commerce was Google and Amazon. And essentially every website adopted those models for their first pass at monetizing their website. Google and Amazon have been fairly successful, so it's not a bad way to look at things. How many websites live and die by selling advertising or by selling products? Okay. So the standard bearers for Web 2 and subscriptions, software as a service, were Salesforce for business-to-business software as a service and Netflix for business-to-consumer software as a service, with countless followers, to the extent that SaaS has been the dominant startup monetization thesis for the last 15 years, basically since the global financial crisis. It's more old and tired at this point than most American politicians, but how many websites, how many software companies live and die by people entering payment details for a monthly or an annual subscription? Well, the answer is damn near all of them. Evidence proves that those models for Web 1 and Web 2 worked well enough that countless businesses depend on them, and countless fortunes have been made and lost by surfing those waves or crashing against the shorelines of ads and e-commerce and software as a service. But it's apparent to me, now that AI is the dominant startup thesis, along with tokenization and crypto, that ads and e-commerce and subscriptions are not going to prevail in an AI-centric world. And for one simple reason, those monetization strategies are for humans, and AI bots are not humans. Changing environments require changing strategies. Every so often, there's a fundamental shift that demands that everything in the ecosystem adapt to a new habitation strategy to survive. We've seen this repeatedly across Earth's history. For example, introducing free oxygen to the atmosphere, producing respiration while destroying all the life forms that existed before oxygen permeated the atmosphere. We've seen it across human society. For example, how nuclear bombs changed war, how guns changed war, how drones are changing it again. And for slightly less violent examples, consider how the adoption of computers changed business, the adoption of smartphones changed business, the adoption of electricity changed business, and not just business, but every aspect of human life. Now the ecosystem of the internet has changed irrevocably, opening up countless new and interesting niches to occupy. A human may see an ad and buy something stupid or occasionally not stupid, but an AI will not buy something unless it's been programmed to. And subscriptions are designed for humans to consume content at a human rate, not for an AI that can suck down an entire database of content, whatever it might be, at whatever speed the servers can manage. So changing conditions require changing strategies. And it was clear to me that the introduction of AI bots to the internet ecosystem was and will be massively disruptive for a very long time. The internet population of bots and bot traffic already exceeds humans and is growing faster than the human population possibly can. And the dominant monetization strategies for Web 1 and Web 2 are just not relevant to bots. So that disruption of expectations across the entire internet ecosystem demands a third strategy, a new strategy for Web3 to handle the massive change in the existing system. And that strategy needs to accommodate, support, and monetize the new demands from the vast armies of new participants in the internet ecology. AI bots. That means a method that converts bots from an expense into a revenue source would become the dominant monetization strategy for Web3 because AI bots are the dominant population and audience on the internet for Web3. And whoever owns that strategy will be the dominant player in the internet ecosystem, just like Google and Amazon dominated Web 1 and just like SaaS dominated Web 2. Whoever owns the AI bot monetization strategy is going to dominate website monetization for Web 3. We set the realization of somewhat practical, somewhat useful AI against the backdrop of technology cycles that have, in the distant past in internet terms, produced ads and e-commerce and subscriptions, and more recently produced enormous investment in fintech and crypto. And I started to see a path that felt like it would grow over time and become the new strategy that works in the AI ecosystem. Well, what is it? There's at least two and possibly only two things that I know about fighting. Okay? You can't fight the tide, and it's much harder to fight an uphill battle. Going back to my last video, if my thesis on this go-around was to go with the flow, and that trickle of insight was leading me from my overlook across the landscape along a roaring flow of cash coursing through this valley of AI startups, where exactly would it lead me? So most rivers lead to the sea eventually, but they can take winding paths, and sometimes the quickest route from the mountaintop to the sea is not to follow the river, but to understand where the river leads and go there directly. So getting a view on high can save you a lot of time and money in your journey. And before I get to where that path has led me, that'll talk about the objective I've identified and the deliverables that I had to produce to reach it, let's talk about a few of the steps along the path that I've taken that highlight the process that I followed. After all, it's about the journey and not the destination. So I figure if I explain the steps that I've taken as I'm taking them, it might be easier for people that have not followed this route before to follow me and understand how they can find their own course towards their own objectives. And maybe the real treasure will be all the friends that we make along the way.